Hey everyone, I'm Not Wilson, and today I want to share with you 4 albums that have a lot of meaning to me. Albums that I've had for a long, long time, 35 plus years, I think, in every case. And they have a history with me clearly, and they might be something that you might enjoy as well. There's nothing particularly audiophile about them, or something that you have to have. That they sound so good with a certain setup or system or something. It's not like that. I'll make one caveat when I get to that, but otherwise, stay tuned. These are the 4 albums that I would pick for anyone's listening pleasure. So the first one is obviously David Bowie, Changes One. As far as I know, I mean, I am a Bowie fan, probably as much as any Bowie fan, although I wouldn't say I'm some sort of hyper fan. I think this is sort of a best of. I don't think this was actually released. I mean, when you look at the playlist of this, so obviously it's got Changes on it, Space Oddity, John I'm Only Dancing, Ziggy Stardust, Suffragette City, you name it, Diamond Dogs, Rebel Rebel. I mean, there's a couple of things that it doesn't have, Ashes to Ashes, and of course later stuff like, from the 80s or what have you. But this is a super good album. And the thing for me with this album is I got this, I think I was 12. I think I got this on my 13th birthday. Pretty sure it was my 13th birthday. It was the summer between grade 7 and grade 8. Other people were giving me like Sesame Street-esque albums, but my sister, God bless her, gave me this album because she got it, right? Like, she's older than me, she understood me, we knew each other well, we were good friends, and this is the album she got for me, which had everyone else kind of going, huh? Our little guys growing up or whatever, but fantastic album, always loved it. I think it was Space Oddity that first caught my my ear when I was a kid, but I fell in love with this right away, played it hundreds of times. So that's the first album. This is no particular order for my 4 albums, but that's the first one I grabbed. The second album comes from a Canadian artist, so it could be, there's lots to choose from. Rush, or The Guess Who, or Tom Cochrane, Red Rider. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Canada has produced some great artists, and I am Canadian, by the way. But this is the guy that I love, and maybe you'll recognize him. This is Bruce Coburn's Dancing in the Dragon's Jaws. It is a phenomenal album, of course, and I have had this longer than I've had David Bowie's Changes One, because I think this belonged to my sister. She obviously doesn't have a turntable. Some of us do and some of us don't, but she does not. So I inherited all of her albums, which included a pretty decent library of Beatles albums, mind you, among other things. Beatles, Monkees, Bay City Rollers, all kinds of good stuff. But this was one of them, and I love this album. I believe it was somewhere in the mid-'80s when someone approached Eddie Van Halen from the group Van Halen and asked him the question, Eddie, what does it feel like to be the world's greatest guitar player? And Eddie said, I don't know, you should go ask Bruce Coburn. Huh? So there's a lot of Bruce Coburn albums to pick from, but this one is really, really well woven together, extremely well produced. And I think this rises above, for me. This album is a 10 out of 10. My next offering is another well-known group. And this album of theirs is sort of ethereal, and you will recognize it. It has a pretty infamous cover, classic design. Dire Straits, Love Over Gold. I used to listen to this album in university. I had a turntable set up in my little single place there, and I would put this on to go to sleep to. Now, that's not a bad thing. Don't get the wrong impression when I say that. I didn't put this on because it was boring music. It was just so atmospheric, and the way Mark Knopfler sort of mumbles through his lyrics and then follows it up with just some sublime guitar work, just beautiful, sort of easy listening. Now, this album, there's a few Dire Straits albums that I could have put here, but this is the one that rises above all the others for me. Alchemy Live would be awfully close, but this one, I can only give it a 9 out of 10, and the reason why is because they have on this album the song that you may or may not know called Industrial Disease. The song is fine, it's fine, but on this album, I think it could have fit much better somewhere else. They could have done something. They could have done anything else to keep up that atmospheric mood that sets a tone with private investigations and everything else on here that is just so hypnotic and gripping. So anyway, a solid 9, but not perfect, but a record for me that I'll never let go of. Fantastic album. Now the final album I have in mind for you today, I've already used the word atmosphere with Dire Straits, but this next one surpasses it. This next album is all about atmosphere. I would also be surprised if anybody who's watching this, maybe you have the album, I don't know, but I've never, ever, ever seen anyone talk about this album before. I've never seen this on lists of anything. It may be there, but I just haven't come across it. This is a group, I'm trying to set this up a little. This is a group that I also listened to since about, probably about grade 9, maybe grade 10. By the time I got to university, I got terribly mocked for liking this band. I think everybody has one of those groups, right? You know, it's like, oh yeah, you know, I like the Beatles, or, you know, Diana Krall, or, you know, there's some standard people that vocally or expressively they've got something groundbreaking and so forth. But everyone has that Achilles heel of a group that at least my friends and I did, and this is mine. This is a group that I got constantly made fun of because I love them so much. And this is their album by Wang Chung. That's right, Wang Chung, To Live and Die in LA. Now this is a soundtrack. And the movie was okay. I think I saw it when I was in high school, but I don't remember anything about the movie. So it's not like the soundtrack elicits memories of this movie that I love. Not at all. The soundtrack for me has created its own memories because I've listened to it so many times over the years. This used to be one of those albums that would inspire me. So when I used to do different kinds of races, and back when I was a teen. And this is the album that sort of like pumped me up, that sort of juiced me up, where I could envision myself winning or passing the next guy or whatever the race entailed. But this, I mean, talk about atmospheric. I think there's only a couple of, there's, To Live and Die in LA and then Lullaby. The first 2 songs on side A, they're both the vocal. And I think there might be one more, but mostly instrumental. And I tell you what, I mean, I know Wang Chung went that route, right? They got very poppy and everybody have fun tonight. Everybody Wang Chung tonight. Look, I like that song. And the album's fantastic. It's probably, in my opinion, way underrated. But this one, way underrated. And this came years before Wang Chung's Everybody Have Fun Tonight and Points on the Curve, even with Dance Hall Days and that sort of thing. So if you're looking for an album to put on a set of headphones. This is the caveat that I spoke of a few minutes ago. Put on a set of headphones and just give it a little bit of volume. I can't crank it anymore. I did enough of that in my youth, and but just put on the headphones, give it a little bit of volume, or if you've got good speakers, that'll be fine. Make sure you're sitting in the right place, but just listen to the way this comes at you, and you will be mesmerized. So those are the 4 albums that I wanted to point out. There's lots of honorable mentions, right? I could, but I don't need to go there because that list would just go on and on and on. So for now, those are the 4 albums I thought I would point out to you. Do with it what you will. Maybe you've got them, or maybe it's something I've perked your interest and you'll kind of be like, okay, I should check that out. See you guys next time. This is Not Wilson.